To be real. All right. Welcome back to the Patrick Reagan Show. That's one of those songs you just want to sing with, isn't it, Jay? Just, at some point you've heard it. It just sticks in your head and just pick up with it.
Who sings that song?
Cheryl Lynn.
Yeah, let's keep it that
way. Oh, boy, I walked right into that one. Yeah. Usually, I'm the one asking that. Trying to catch some way with that. I'll sing better than her anyway. That song should be sung with a bass voice.
You keep telling yourself that.
Yeah. Hey, it sounds good when I'm in the shower. And
that's all that matters.
Yeah, really. That's all that matters. I don't have a big audience in there anyway.
I would hope not.
Yeah. Well, the NSA has a camera in there and I think it's wired for sound, but other than that, they're watching everything else I do, probably. All right.
Under the shield of the Patriot Act.
Oh, yeah. It's all to protect me. That's all this is to protect Patrick.
From yourself.
Yeah. I'm so glad the government's here to save me from me, that terrorist Patrick. All right. This segment, well, I want to pick up a little bit where I left off last week with this issue called nullification. And the reason behind this is, as I explained last week, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, are getting real mad and frustrated with this government. Now, both sides of the aisle are defending all of this spying, all of these rampant violations of the Constitution. Of course, they're saying it's legal. Both sides, Republicans and Democrats, they're saying that all of this is, it's perfectly okay. The government basically monitoring your every move. That's fine with them. See nothing wrong with it at all. Sure, some of them made some token arguments against it when George Bush was pushing to get all this stuff passed. They were really for the legislation, but they wanted to have it both ways. They wanted to rail against it, but they knew it would pass anyway, which is what they wanted all along. As I've said before, there really isn't a lot of difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They both want to limit or outright take away your freedom and liberty using whatever argument that fits the moment. Just, for instance, this week, just look at Marco Rubio jumping back and forth, one side to the other. I mean, did you see the story where he said that surveillance is here to stay? He doesn't have any problem with the NSA, and he's the Republican golden boy. You know he's Hispanic, too, don't you? I know the Republicans like to point that out as much as they can, and I like helping them out from time to time, so don't forget Marco Rubio. He's Hispanic. So all you brain-dead Hispanics will vote for him because apparently you'll do that without considering the issues. I mean, come on, what else are we supposed to think when he's portrayed this way? He's Hispanic. Therefore, the Hispanics will vote for him because he's one of theirs. How much more racist can you be to think like that? You know, if I was a Hispanic, this would offend me to no end. But anyway, here's the news article about Senator Rubio right here. It's Tampa Bay Times, and he's quoted as saying, "The threat that we face, largely radical political Islamists, is probably a threat that is going to exist for the rest of our lifetimes. It's just the reality. We have to deal with it." That's what he told reporters. He also went on to say, "The world changed after 9/11, and it changed after Boston. It's just a struggle to try to balance our deeply held convictions of privacy and freedoms and liberties with our need to provide for national security." So there you go. If you checked our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Reagan Show, you saw this story posted the day it came out this week, along with a nice little note from me about it. But the article goes on to say, Rubio said the programs are part of an intense congressional oversight and something that Congress members are aware of. They get to review from time to time and see how it's being applied. Now, President Barack Obama also insisted on Friday that every member of Congress has been briefed on the programs. These are programs that have been authored by large bipartisan majorities repeatedly since 2006. He also said, your duly elected representatives have consistently been informed. So this is just Rubio and Obama. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein, Republican House Representative Mike Rogers, and even more from both sides are defending all of this spying. Oh, what can we take from all this? President Obama and Senator Rubio are both stating that Congress has been kept in the loop, that the White House has been kept in the loop. So all of these people knew this was going on, and it didn't make them wonder if it was maybe violating the rights of the American citizens. Are they this stupid? Does any of this not sound an alarm bell in their collective heads? If not, then one of two things is occurring. Either these people see nothing wrong with the government wholesale spying on American citizens, or they're too stupid to understand what's going on. I would think either one would be grounds for removal from office. At the very least, removing everyone from Congress at the next election who voted for these types of unconstitutional pieces of legislation. But getting back to my point, don't worry, I didn't forget. Even if I did forget, the government gives me more than enough material to talk about the rest of this week. But getting back to the nullification. Oh, real quick before we get to that nullification. Speaking of violating the Constitution being legal, let me play this one quick clip from Judge Andrew Napolitano. Now, if his voice sounds familiar, it's because he is the first voice you hear at the opening of the show each week. The judge was on Lou Dobbs' show, and this is what he had to say about government saying it is legal to violate the Constitution.
Because the Congress thinks it can write any law and regulate any behavior and tax any event, in Congress's mind, whatever it says is legal is legal. But because the Constitution restrains the Congress, because the Constitution prohibits a search warrant for 113 million Americans when they're looking for 2 or 3, it's unconstitutional. So what the government has done is legal because the Patriot Act authorizes it, but profoundly unconstitutional because the Congress has attempted to disregard the Constitution.
Exactly right. It is legal, but not constitutional, and the Constitution trumps all of that. Congressional representatives take an oath to uphold the Constitution. So do they violate their oaths when they vote for unconstitutional laws? Yes, they do. But I got off track again with all these revelations. A lot of people ask me, Patrick, what can I do? I'm getting frustrated, mad, angry. I feel helpless. Okay, first of all, start supporting libertarian candidates for office. That is a huge first step towards getting the government under control. But elections are a little ways off. What can I do now? Same answer. Attend meetings of your local libertarian party. Give them your money and your time. Become an ambassador for the party. Speak to your neighbors, your friends, your family. Tell them that libertarianism isn't some spooky, scary, crazy, kooky political party. It's actually a return to our original American values. And tell them to listen to this show each week, too. That goes a long way as well. What we're talking about are values that made this country great. Freedom and liberty. Another thing you can do is start pushing your local state representatives. What I'm getting into is to nullify these federal laws. Now, I talked about a little about this last week, and you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. But what this is based on is the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, which states, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. People who believe in a strong, overbearing federal government will point to a Supreme Court ruling that was Cooper versus Aaron, and it's that what that held was state attempts to nullify federal law are ineffective and mainly symbolic. A Supreme Court essentially set itself up to be the sole arbiter of the Constitution with this case. Now, this is in direct opposition to what the founders and the Constitution had intended. Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Kentucky Resolution of 1798, and you can Google that, Kentucky Resolution of 1798, to get the whole story behind that. But what he wrote was, the several states composing the United States of America are not united on the principle of unlimited submission to their general government. The government created by this compact was not made the exclusive or final judge of the extent of the powers delegated to itself, since that would have made its discretion and not the Constitution the measure of its powers. So what it's saying is the federal government is not the final judge on the extent of its power. The people are. In other words, if the federal government gets to decide the extent of its own power, through its own judicial branch, then the people of the states don't have any way to hold it in check. Thus, the whole idea of having a federal government becomes a pipe dream. Now, real quick before the break, I'll put it to you this way. If you like Tennessee football and you root for them every season, and Tennessee is playing Alabama, would you be okay with officials who are employed and paid for by the University of Alabama? Would you be okay with them as referees? So how do you trust the federal government to limit itself when it is the one deciding whether it should be limited or not? Real quickly, just look at the laughable Supreme Court ruling over Obamacare. It's really a tax and not a fine. They answered a question that wasn't even asked. The whole Obamacare legislation is clearly unconstitutional. And you argue the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of what is constitutional or not. How can that which is created be in charge and over the creator? The people created the federal government, the Supreme Court. So how can it be the final voice in the decision on what is constitutional? It can't. Ultimately, that is up to the creators of the Constitution, the people of this country, the people who gave birth to the state government and to the federal government. All right, we're up on the bottom of the hour already here on the Patrick Reagan Show. And we still haven't gotten to everything. But when we come back, we may hit this a little bit. And we'll go hit on immigration and Syria before we're out of time for this hour. Join us again in a couple of minutes here on the Patrick Reagan Show with, hey, guess who? Me, Patrick Riggins. We'll be back.